You're listening to the Seen and Solved podcast, brought to you by Hubbard-Hall. Better results, less chemistry.
So welcome to this edition of Seen and Solved, presented by Hubbard-Hall. I'm Tim Pennington, editor of finishingandcoating.com. And we're welcoming to us today Robert Gardner, who's the International Sales Director at Hubbard-Hall. And we're going to be talking about a project that he did in Asia using the AquaEase Infinity. So Robert, appreciate you joining us today. Tell us a little bit about your background, your experience, and what who is it that you work with on the world scene?
Yes, my background basically is that I've been involved in metal finishing all my entire working life. I did actually start off as an apprentice in one of the large supply houses, the international supply houses in the very early 1980s, and the company was a very traditional British metal finishing supplier by the name of Cannings. I think I can say that, which is now McDermott. And they had a policy that you had to stay in the electroplating and metal finishing sector of the laboratory and the demonstration shops for 5 years before they would let you see a customer. So basically all aspects of metal finishing and areas that wasn't covered, I then went on to do dip spin coatings for the automotive industry and ultrafiltration, which is a little bit what we're going to talk about today, but actually for electrophoretic lacquers, but it's a very similar principle. Since I've been so involved with metal finishing all my life, I was made a fellow of the Institute of Materials Finishing, which is it's a UK institute. It used to be called the Institute of Metal Finishing. That's actually coming up in a few months to 100 years. It's having
100 years, yeah, I've read that. Yeah.
So I was made a fellow of that institute about 5 years ago, which was a nice honour because. Recommended by other people, and so that's my background. Right. It's a very, very broad one. Everything from basic electroplating, electropolishing, anodizing, right the way through, basically, and that sort of suits the application of the job that I work at now, actually, because although as I said, we do have direct customers, and actually the one I was going to talk about today is a direct customer. We mainly work through distributors, and one of the advantages of Hubbard-Hall is the huge product range that we have in pre-treatments, post-treatments, basically, and even some brighteners, but we tend to stay away from the brighteners generally, although we do have some. The sort of customer base can be very, very broad. It can be aerospace, the battery industry for EV cars is quite a growing one, right the way through automotive, and then other niches which we're very, very strong on is, for example, electropolishing. There's a huge medical application for electropolishing, especially in Pakistan and India. We do a lot of business out there with electropolishing for those applications for scalpels and knives and eye equipment, etc.
Great. Most people don't think Hubbard-Hall International. Tell us a bit about the reach that you all do have in Europe and all over the world, I guess.
Yes. As you mentioned, I'm responsible for all the international business at Hubbard-Hall, so I get less involved with the domestic, and we've traditionally done that through distributors or direct, and that model has worked for us very well over the past 20 years or so. Right. So we currently do not own any business entities outside of the US. That's not to say we won't do that one day, or we might do that strategically in a specific market. But at the moment, the current model is working very well.
Yeah, I know today we're going to talk about pretty good product that you all carry, AquaEase Infinity, and how you all solved the problem for a customer in Singapore. So let's first talk about AquaEase Infinity. Tell us about it, what it all does, what benefits the end user gets out of using it.
Yes, this is a great technology. The original idea of Infinity goes back a long way, maybe 20, 30, 40 years actually. In some places in Europe there was filtration systems for cleaners. But the historic problem has always been that although you can extend the life of the cleaner, you also, on the older technologies, tend to pull out the surfactants in the cleaner as well. So you end up having an extra on cost, and the advantage is no longer as good as you originally perceived it to be. The AquaEase Infinity is what you call an ultrafiltration unit, which filters the cleaner, and it mainly removes the oil and other spent products or materials inside the cleaner without actually removing the surfactant package. And it's a great technology. It's a proven technology, and it typically saves a cost of between 30 and 35% running cost in 1 year. And first we started working with this company, the original company, in about 2018, I believe. And this is the company that actually sold and made the product and marketed it. And we worked with them with our cleaners, and we realized this technology was so good that we bought the company. And now it is called AquaEase Infinity, and it's part of the product range. And we have the advantage now of knowing exactly what's in our formulations, and we just tune this to optimum performance. So it goes together with our cleaner packages. So
good you bought it. That's what a very good accolade of somebody, right? It's so good that you had to have it. So
absolutely, absolutely
had to do that. Yeah. So this customer was in South Asia, and so do you travel with that? How do you solve a problem with a customer that far away?
Yes, it was certainly a challenge, although it turned out to be a much easier challenge than we originally thought, because the initial idea was, well, maybe we send a guy out there for a few weeks, but the cost of that is very, very high, especially when it's a trial situation. And this customer is a very professional operation. They were self-motivated themselves simply because one of the issues with international business is the shipping cost, which is significant. There can be delays at the ports. There's been a lot of issues since COVID where there's been issues with shipping. So they've had to carry larger inventory. But also the location where this customer is makes it very difficult to dispose of waste cleaner. It's very, very costly to do that. And so they had motivations where they could actually, that they were focused. So they wanted this to work. So it was great help for them to actually do that. There were some good engineers on site, although they had no experience in this technology before. But there was a few electrical engineers that was able to convert the power because it's a slightly different frequency of electricity in South Asia compared to the US. So they did some slight modifications, but it really went off to a great start.
Define for me again. I'm not sure if I caught that. What was the problem they were having? So they weren't using AquaEase Infinity. So what problem were they having that they wanted to talk to you and bring you all in?
Yes, fortunately this was an existing customer. So we already knew what the formulation of the cleaner was, what the surfactant package was, etc., etc. And we'd also done some trials in Waterbury, Connecticut, knowing that the equipment could actually solve their problem. The problem they were facing was that the sheer cost of shipping out of their facility waste cleaner, and something like 3,000 gallons a week, which was a huge cost to them to be treated. But also the fact that Post-COVID, there was some difficulties in shipping. Things have slightly eased, but they was having to take some extra inventory, so there was extra cost there. Plus, it's a 6 or 7 week shipping to actually get there in the destination. Wow. So they were just looking at ways of cutting costs across the board, and this fitted very well with their aims.
So, I mean, your approach, what type of approach did you all take? How do you go about helping them look at ways that they can reduce some of their costs, again, without sacrificing the quality that they needed out of what they were doing?
Yes, the philosophy that we had, and we're quite fortunate because we have a kind of neat self-contained unit. We call it the AquaEase Infinity MO unit, and it's basically self-contained. It sits on a pallet. You basically just put a tube in and a tube out and can plug it in, and away it goes. So we actually shipped one of these units out to Asia. Originally we thought about a 30-day trial, but they ended up keeping it close to, I think, 45 to 50 days in the end, because they were enjoying the learning process.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right.
But it is a great unit for trialing, because that particular unit is good for between say 5,000 and 6,000 gallons a day of treating cleaner. And then there's the Pro unit, which is a much larger unit, which is that's capable of doing 15,000 gallons a day if needs be. And you can actually put multiples of that in the same unit. The problem with the larger units, or the challenge with the larger unit, is you do need exterior tanks. So you probably wouldn't do a trial with the larger unit. Whereas the smaller unit is just perfect because it's a plug and play virtually, and where we actually what worked really well was we asked them to take a photograph of the control panel every single day. There's a liquid crystal control panel on the front of the machine, and they send that by WhatsApp to us every day. And we could just read the pressure readings and whatever and say, this is going great.
Wow.
Because there were a lot of unknowns, we actually had 3 filter columns in with the setup. I mean, basically, the ultrafiltration unit it's a series of pumps, tanks, and a filtration column. Now, as that column starts removing some of the contaminants out of the cleaner, the pressure will actually build up in that column because it starts to block and clog a little bit. And after a certain point, you then have to remove that column and backwash it in a special way of doing that, in a special way. And because of the distance, it wasn't practical just to ship that back to the US to clean and then to ship back again. We actually shipped 3 columns with us. With the unit, and it takes about 15 minutes to change. And in actual fact, we only needed to change the column once, and even then, we probably didn't really need to do it. It was during the trial, the 1 column was perfectly good for that cleaner.
Let's talk about the outcome, because, like I said, they were looking to reduce some costs. There's shipping the things offsite and everything. What were some of the outcomes that they saw after using this?
Well, several things. One, they noticed an increase in quality, actually, because during the life of a cleaner, obviously, when the cleaner's new, you get a very high efficiency in removing oils and whatever into the cleaner. But as the cleaner ages, that efficiency tends to drop off. And companies make their own decision with cleaners on when just to do that. If it's just a simple commercial application of zinc plating where adhesion is really taken care of, it's not you very rarely get poor adhesion, especially on alkaline zinc. The job shops will run those cleaners right into the ground before they drop them, whereas where you've got more safety critical or more sensitive areas where the surface tension on the steel components are at a critical level, that customers will drop those cleaners within 4 days, 5 days typically. Mm. And then with this particular company, they were dropping their cleaners within a 5-day period. And they found out straight away that there's probably a lot more cost savings, but they found out they're saving about 35% of their operating costs by using, during the trial, this AquaEase Infinity equipment. Wow.
That's a huge number. That's a large number for that, and to be getting better quality. I mean, those two put together is pretty unique.
Yeah, and the other advantage as well is obviously you're removing and separating the oils from the cleaner, and that's going into a holding tank. But that's a fairly concentrated wastewater. It's not a dilute. There's very little water in there. It's quite a concentrated wastewater. So their actual wastewater shipping, because they're having it taken off site every week, has actually been reduced because and it's actually more concentrated, which wastewater people actually prefer that.
You all didn't have to go on site to do there. Like I said, if you've got some people there that, like you said, have a little bit of background in it, you can pretty much work with anybody anywhere to get the system in place, it seems like.
Definitely. I mean, that proved it without any shadow of doubt. Right. And also, they was out to learn from this as well. Mm-hmm. And one of the final outcomes they realised, because they had actually put a capex in for the value of the MO unit, the smaller unit. And because of the expansion of the company and the projected manufacturing for them over the coming years, they actually want to put one of the larger units in now. So that they actually learned by actual demonstration rather than just theoretical from our end, saying you need this piece of equipment, not that piece of equipment. So, gotcha. So it was good. Yeah, it worked out very well.
Interesting. Well, I appreciate you sharing that. That's very interesting. Like I said, because like I said, I know you probably remember this one. The day you had to get on an airplane, you had to go there, and you had to spend time, and then the back and forth phone calls. And the technology today really lends itself to, like you said, some of those installations now where you can even observe the LCD screens and look at and see what's going on with it. Things have come a far way since even a decade ago, it seems like.
Yeah, and we was doing it in real time as well. One of the reasons why I'm based in England is I get to talk to the Asian community in the mornings and the Americans in the afternoon. So we can tend to do
Look
that.
At you, here you go.
It kind of works quite well.
Great. Listen, Robert, I appreciate you joining us. I appreciate that all that information about the AquaEase Infinity.
Okay, no, it's a pleasure.
Thanks for listening to Seen and Solved by Hubbard-Hall. For more episodes, visit hubbardhall.com or wherever you get your podcasts. Be sure to like and subscribe, rate and review, and join us on social media. Produced by AquaCast.